Good afternoon. This is Robert Cornicelli, President of Veterans for America First. And with me today, I have just an unbelievable guest. Um, I met this person about 2 years ago at an event. She wasn't a declared candidate for governor, as far as I knew. And immediately I was impressed with how quick she was to respond or how responsive she was to the issues that face law enforcement, face first responders, face veterans. It wasn't political. You could tell it right away. I mean, I spent 21 years in the military, four in the intelligence world, and I know when someone is saying something that's politically motivated or if it really means something deep down in their heart. So with me today, I have South Carolina's Lieutenant Governor, Pamela Evette. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me, Robert. And it was great getting to meet your daughter. And I know the first time we met was at the primary celebration for President Trump right in Columbia.
Yes, that was a good time. And that's where we spoke for
Yes, well,
a good
well,
period of time.
it was wonderful. It was wonderful to be there and sharing the excitement with President Trump. I mean, I never doubted for a minute that he would take South Carolina handedly. And it was a great night to celebrate, and so many supporters out. And I mean, it was great being a surrogate for the president because I believed in him, right? It's kind of like you said in your introduction. As soon as you meet somebody and you can believe in their message and they're doing things for the right reason, it's so easy to stand behind them.
And you could see that, and no matter what the Democrats say or their influencers say, they said this about Bush, he was going to get richer, but Trump is worth like 4 billion, $5 billion. He's not doing this to increase his net worth. He's doing this because he really cares. And the thing about you that I know just from interacting with you on a personal level twice is that you really do care. You're not doing this to add wealth to your family or to your family's legacy. I could tell when I first talked to you at that event about a bill I drafted in New York called the 3 Foot Safety Act. I drafted this years ago. And trying to get a bill that protects law enforcement and first responders passed in New York is impossible. The Democrat senators like Mario Matera, who led the charge, they were laughed at basically in chambers. So it went nowhere. But when I moved to South Carolina and they made me the South Carolina vice president for Veterans for Trump and Veterans for America First, I said, I'm in the South now. I'm in God's country. I'm in a place where freedom matters, faith, family. I always say the 3 F's, faith, family, and freedom. It matters so much. And I said, let me try to pass this bill here. And I had a connection to Senator Grooms in Georgia, who's there, the president of the Senate, and he ran with it right away and got it passed. I sent it to several legislators in Florida. They ran with it and got it passed. And I met you, and I had spoken to some senators here, and nothing happened. But the minute I met you that day, I could see in your eyes that this was something that, and I know I'm talking too much, but people need to understand your eyes like widened and they got like all bright, and you really saw the impact of this 25-foot safety act, which says you cannot come within 25 feet of a police officer, or if they say you're within my 25, you can come in there if you need help or they need help. But if they say get back 25 feet and you don't, that's a violation. That's an obstruction violation.
Yeah.
And you can be fined or jailed. And you lit up because you saw how powerful it was. We all saw during the BLM riots and the Antifa riots, those people in the faces of cops like this.
Oh,
And I carried a sidearm and I carried an M4. You can't raise an M4 if someone's within a foot or two of you. You can't pull your sidearm and protect yourself or protect that sidearm if someone's in your face. There has to be a reactionary gap. And in the police academies, they teach you must keep a 21-foot reactionary gap between you and a perpetrator because it takes 1.5 seconds for them to get at you with a knife or a pipe with whatever. Now it's 25 feet, but I want to let you speak a little bit, but I really had to drill it down for people who are going to watch. why you are our September Hero of the Month, because you took this legislation and you ran, you spoke at it at an event, a sheriff's event. I know you brought it to the House and to the Senate. You're just an amazing person who law enforcement, first responders in this state need to know, and around the world, that wherever you are in public office, they're safe and protected.
Well, Robert, first off, thank you so much. It's an incredible honor to receive such a great award. And, it just made common sense. Like when you were talking about the Halo Act, and to me, it was like, this should be everywhere. This is a no-brainer. This should get passed on day one. Who wants to argue that law enforcement shouldn't be able to protect themselves, right? Probably only bad guys um, don't want that to be in play. And so when you told me about it, my team, we did a little research and found out who in South Carolina was sponsoring the bill. We had Representative Bill Hickson, Representative Cal Forrest, their names are on this bill. We met with Sheriff Rowland in Edgefield and had a press conference and basically had a lot of media show up to say, like, okay, everybody on notice, this needs to get passed right when we get back into session in January, because law enforcement, we see that. What you were talking about with a cell phone in somebody's hand in a law enforcement officer's face, we see it when we turn on the news every single day. And what we can't stand for as elected officials is allowing this to go on and not doing everything we can to keep our law enforcement safe every single day. Because, here in South Carolina, I think I shared with you, the governor and I, we gave the largest increases to law enforcement in the state's history. But wage increases aren't enough, because an officer's family, they just want them to come home safe every day. And that's what this law does. And I'm proud that I hold the title of lieutenant governor, because that helps me throw a press conference and get press there to bring it to light to people. But this is something that every South Carolinian does stand behind. And if I wasn't in office, Robert, I'd be right there with you saying, how do we get this passed? Let me help you. And since that press conference, I've had so many people come up to me and say, thank you. Thank you for bringing this to light. Why don't we already have this on the books? I can't believe that it hasn't been passed yet. So I've gotten some assurances from representatives in the House that this will be a priority when they come back in January. And I'm just so happy that you shared it with me, because I tell people all the time, don't assume I know something. There are so many bills that get, added in and they get sponsored in that we never hear about. And so I always say, don't assume I know. Always tell me so that I can, do something to help advocate for you, especially for something like this. So thank you for really caring enough to reach out. And I know that we're going to be having you in front of a bunch of lieutenant governors, a bunch of Republican lieutenant governors, actually in Charleston next month, so that you can share this with them and they can get it rolling in their state. So Robert, thank you for your continued service, because it just, sometimes people think I'm just one person. What could I possibly do? And you're a great example of how one person can move the ball in a lot of different states.
Well, thank you. The president of the United States, a governor, a lieutenant governor, senators, CEOs of companies. I mean, you're really CEOs when you're at those top positions. They don't know everything. And if they do, that company's going to fail. They need to put good people around them who can come up with ideas. And then that CEO determines what ones they think will work, what ones they think will have an impact, what ones they think they can fund. And it takes a person who doesn't have, it takes a humble person to sit in those positions and succeed. And I think you have that quality. I think you're a person who doesn't need to, what is the old saying? If you think you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. You
Yeah.
need to be in the room with the smartest people. And I think, not that you're not the smartest person in the room, but I think you understand, it's good to be in a room where there are thinkers. And one of the things that people don't understand is if you go into a courthouse or a federal building or any building where they have metal detectors, right? They stop you from bringing a weapon in for whose safety, the people within that building. But that doesn't mean there's no weapons in that building. There are weapons on those court officers. There are weapons. So if you let someone in a courtroom who's looking to do damage or in a federal building get too close to those officers, there's a weapon there and they could do a lot of damage. So having this buffer is so important for public safety.
Absolutely. And, and it's exactly right. When these, my husband and I have talked about that before. When we see this happening on TV, you see law enforcement trying to protect their gun and also trying to keep their, a hand in front of them to, just kind of make whatever distance they can possibly get. And so you're right. Somebody doesn't have to bring a gun, to a confrontation, but if they can get access to somebody's gun or taser or whatever that they have on their person to protect them, it can turn into a really bad situation. And so, again, I'm feeling now very confident here in South Carolina that the HALO Act will get a lot of movement as soon as this General Assembly comes back in January.
And one last thing, because I do know your time is precious and you have to travel all over South Carolina. The thing that makes you special in my eye, well, I should say in the eyes of my board, because they had to look at this and say, is this person worthy of hero of the month? So it wasn't just me. Is that you didn't just say, I'm going to use this. I mean, basically, you said this before you decided to run for governor, but even when we met a couple of weeks ago, your first response wasn't how I can implement this in South Carolina. Your first response was, I have to get you before at least the Republican lieutenant governors, or even the lieutenant governors of all states, because this needs to be passed countrywide, nationwide. Like that was your first response. Like this is something that doesn't happen. I don't need just to propel me to the top office. This is something that everyone needs to be doing. And that was impressive. I have to tell you. I mean, I was really impressed with that. And right after that meeting, I called a bunch of the guys on our board. I said, we have a gem here. I mean, someone who's willing to push this nationwide to protect all officers isn't a politician. That's an elected official.
Well, thank you. And, I think the best part of my job is that I get to connect and help people. And so that's what I've done. When you're in business, that it's your circle of friends who help really make things happen. And so that's why when I was thinking about wow, we need this here in South Carolina, but wow, I have a whole bunch of friends who really would think the same thing I do. And so I'm glad. And I really believe that's the best part of my job. Like I said, is being able to help people get great things accomplished. And I think that's something we can all do, whether we have a title and we're in political office or if it's helping our neighbor, right? We all have a sphere of friends that we should be able to pull together when something worthwhile gets presented to us. So I'm excited to introduce you to the lieutenant governors, Republican lieutenant governors that are coming down, and we're going to have to connect you with more of them, maybe on a Zoom call like this that, they just couldn't make it work in their schedules to come to Charleston. But we'll make sure we get you in front of all of them at some point, Robert.
Thank you so much. Well, ma'am, I know your time is precious. I don't want to hold you up from getting out there and helping people in South Carolina. That's what you do best. I just want to reiterate for anyone who's watching, Veterans for America First is giving the Hero of the Month award to Lieutenant Governor Pamela Evette from South Carolina for her amazing work in the law enforcement, first responder, and veteran field. And this bill is going to save lives. It's going not only save lives, it's going to make the family members of law enforcement feel better that their husbands or wives who are serving have a better chance to come home. So I have to commend you on this. You're going to save hundreds of lives. I know that. And that's what this is all about. So thank you again.
Robert, thank you. And please, anytime you see something on your radar that pops up that you think we would all benefit from, never hesitate to reach out to me.
I won't. You got a great staff.
Thank you, Robert.
Team. It's great to see you again.
Great to see you too.
All right, take care.